Checking the angle. Good afternoon, beloveds. I have been reserving Saturdays. Well, it started with Emma Curtis Hopkins, and then I decided to do the board book, and I'm still going to do the Emma Curtis Hopkins High Mysticism, but I'm going to do Emerson's essays. I know it's backwards. I'm sorry. I don't know how to flip it. Sometime this summer, Jessie is going to do a 6-week class on Emerson. And we had talked about it briefly, and I asked him to send me the list of essays that he's going to do. And he sent me he texted me the list, and so it's in front of my book. This is a book that I've had forever. Just in case you want to know what volume edition I guess I'm using, this is the edition that I'm going to use. So this is in preparation for his Emerson class that is not done yet. But this way, the essays are available for anybody who wants them. I'm sure somebody else out there has read the Emerson essays, but I'm going to do it for Jessie's class. So these will be available on both the Running Rev Ryan YouTube channel and the Creative Life YouTube channel. So let me go ahead and do the housekeeping really quick, because I'm doing this for Creative Life Spiritual Center. If you are interested in why and the class, the website is creativelife.org. The constant contact email is info@creativelife.org. If you email that, it gets you on the mailing list that you get one email a week, tells you what's going on for the week and the month, and the hot links are hot. So click here now means it. It also is a blind CC, so nobody will see your email. You won't end up on anybody else's email list because of us. We also obviously have social media, because I'm doing this on social media. I'm doing this on our Facebook page, and then I will archive it on the 2 YouTube channels. So I am the Running Rev Ryan across all of the social medias that I am on, and we are either Creative Life Spark or Creative Life Spiritual Center. Like Instagram is Creative Life Spark, but the Facebook page and the YouTube channel are both Creative Life Spiritual Center. In an effort to make it easier to find. So it's on both, and it will be a playlist, and it will say Emerson's essays. So that's what we are doing. Now, the particular book that I have, it says Emerson's Essays, first and second series, completed in 1 volume, introduction by Erwin Edman. So that way you know, and it's done by Perennial Library. And clearly I've had this a while because it was $16 when I got it. So here we are. Okay. So I'm not going to read the introduction. I am just going to read, and I may come back and read the introduction later, but for now, we are going to do Spiritual Laws, which I thought I had marked, which I do not. So bear with me while I find Spiritual Laws. Got it. Okay. All right. I believe this is essay 4. They're done in Roman numerals. So, and the highlighter that I have chosen for Emerson is yellow. I don't think I have even marked in this book. Jessie is a huge Emerson fan. Me, not so much, but I'm learning to appreciate Emerson the further I get into this teaching. And I've been in this teaching for over 20 years now. So, yeah, here we are. All right, essay 4 from Ralph Waldo Emerson, Spiritual Laws. When the act of reflection takes place in the mind, when we look at ourselves in the light of thought, we discover that our life is embossed in beauty. Behind us, as we go, all things assume pleasing forms as clouds do far off. Okay. Not only things familiar and stale, but even the tragic and terrible are comely as they take their place in the pictures of memory. The riverbank, the weed at the waterside, the old house, the foolish person, however neglected in the passing, have a grace in the past. Even the corpse that has lain in the chambers has added a solemn ornament to the house. The soul will not know either deformity or pain. If in the hours of clear reason we should speak the severest truth, we should say that we had never made a sacrifice. In these hours, the mind seems so great that nothing can be taken from us that seems much. All loss, all pain is particular. The universe remains to the heart unhurt. Distress never, trifles never abate our trust. No man ever stated his griefs as lightly as he might. Allow for exaggeration in the most patient and sorely ridden back that was ever driven. For it is only the finite that has wrought and suffered. The infinite lies stretched in smiling repose. Then if you're new here, that's one of the most famous quotes in Emerson, and Jesse quotes it a lot. The intellectual life may be kept clean and healthful if a person will live the life of nature and not import into their mind difficulties that are none of theirs. No person need be perplexed in their speculations. Let them do and say what strictly belongs to them, and though very ignorant of books, their nature shall not yield them any intellectual obstructions and doubts. Our young people are diseased with the theological problems of original sin, origin of evil, predestination, and the like. These never presented a difficulty to any person, never darkened across any person's road who did not go out of their way to seek them. These are the soul's mumps and measles and whooping coughs, and those who have not caught them cannot describe their health or prescribe a cure. Oh, wow. A simple mind will not know these enemies. It is quite another thing that they should be able to give account of their faith and expound to another the theory of their self-union and freedom. This requires rare gifts, yet without this self-knowledge there may be a sylvan strength and integrity in that which they are. A few strong instincts and a few plain rules suffice us. That's in quotes. It's probably a quote from somewhere. My will never gave the images in my mind the rank they now take. The regular course of studies, the years of academical and professional education have not yielded me better facts than some idle books under the bench at the Latin school. What we do not call education is more precious than that which we call so. We form no guess at the time of receiving a thought of its comparative value. And education often wastes its efforts in attempts to thwart and hulk this natural magnetism. which is sure discrimination, which with sure discrimination selects its own. Okay, let me try that sentence again. And education often wastes its efforts in attempts to thwart and balk this natural magnetism, which with sure discrimination selects its own. In like manner, our moral nature is vitiated by any interference of our will. People represent virtue as a struggle and take to themselves great airs upon their attainments, and the question is everywhere vexed when a noble nature is commended, whether the person is not better who strives with temptation. But there is no merit in the matter. Either God is there or God is not there. We love characters in proportion as they are impulsive and spontaneous. The less a person thinks or knows about their virtue, the better we like them. Timoleon's victories are the best victories, which ran and flowed like Homer's verses. Plutarch said, when we see a soul whose acts are all regal, graceful, and pleasant as roses, we must thank God that such things can be and are, and not turn sourly on the angel and say, Crump is a better man with his grunting resistance to all his native devils. Not less conspicuous is the preponderance of nature over will in all practical life. There is less intention in history than we ascribe to it. We impute deep-laid, far-sighted plans to Caesar and Napoleon, but the best of their power was in nature, not in them. Men of extraordinary success in their honest moments have always sung, not unto us, not unto us. According to the faith of their times, they have built altars to fortune, or to destiny, or to St. Julian. Their success lay in their parallelism to the course of thought, which found in them an unobstructed channel, and the wonders of which they were the visible conductors, seems to the eye their deed. Oh, wow. Did the wires generate the galvanism? It is even true that there was less in them on which they could reflect than in another, as the virtue of a pipe is to be smooth and hollow. That which externally seemed will and immovableness was willingness and self-annihilation. Could Shakespeare give a theory of Shakespeare? Could ever a person of prodigious mathematical genius convey to others any insight into their methods? If they could communicate that secret instantly, it would lose all its exaggerated value, blending with the daylight and the vital energy, the power to stand and to go. The lesson is forcibly taught by these observations that our life might be much easier and simpler than we make it, that the world might be a happier place than it is, that there is no need of struggles, convulsions, and despairs, of the wringing of hands and the gnashing of teeth, that we miscreate our own evils. We interfere with the optimism of nature, for whenever we get this vantage ground of the past or of a wiser mind in the present, we are able to discern that we are begirt with spiritual laws which execute themselves. The face of the external nature teaches the same lesson with calm superiority. Nature will not have us fret and fume. She does not like our benevolence or our learnings much better than she likes our frogs and our wars. When we come out of the caucus or the bank or the abolition convention or the temperance meeting or the transcendental club into the fields and woods, she says to us, "So hot, my little sir?" We are full of mechanical actions. We must needs intermeddle and have things in our own way until the sacrifices and virtues of society are odious. Love should make joy, but our benevolence is unhappy. Our Sunday schools and churches and pauper societies are yokes to the neck. We pain ourselves to please nobody. There are natural ways of arriving at the same ends at which these aims, but do not arrive. Why should all virtue work in one and the same way? Why should all give dollars? It is very inconvenient to us country folk, and we do not think any good will come of it. We have not dollars. Merchants have. Let them give them. Farmers will give corn. Poets will sing. Women will sew. Laborers will lend a hand. The children will bring flowers. And why drag this dead weight of a Sunday school over the whole Christendom? It is natural and beautiful that childhood should inquire and maturity should teach, but it is time enough to answer questions when they are asked. Do not shut up the young people against their will in a pew and force the children to ask them questions for an hour against their will. If we look wider, all things are alike. Laws and letters and creeds and modes of living seem a travesty of truth. Our society is encumbered by ponderous machinery, which resembles the endless aqueducts which the Romans built over hill and dale, and which are superseded by the discovery of the law that water rises to the level of its source. It is a Chinese wall which any nimble Tartar can leap over. It is a standing army. It is a standing army, not so good as peace. It is a graduated, tiled, richly appointed empire, quite superfluous when town meetings are found to answer just as well. Let us draw a lesson from nature, which always works by short ways. When the fruit is ripe, it falls. When the fruit is dispatched, the leaf falls. The circuit of the waters is mere falling. The walking of humanity and all animals is a falling forward. I wonder if that's where Douglas Adams got that from. Interesting. Douglas Adams wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a trilogy which ended up being 5 books, and he calls flying falling upwards. I wonder if he was a fan of Emerson. Side note, has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. All our manual labor and works of strength are prying, splitting, digging, rowing, and so forth are done by dint of continual falling, and the globe, earth, moon, comet, star, sun fall forever and ever. The simplicity of the universe is very different from the simplicity of a machine. He who sees a moral nature out and thoroughly knows how knowledge is acquired and character is formed is a pedant. Okay. The simplicity of nature is not that which may easily be read, but is inexhaustible. The last analysis can no wise be made. We judge a person's wisdom by their hope, knowing that the perception of the inexhaustibleness of nature is an immortal youth. The wild fertility of nature is felt in comparing our rigid names and reputations with our fluid consciousness. We pass in the world for sex and schools, for erudition and piety, and we are all the time jujune babies, or babes. One sees very well how pariahism grew up. Every person sees that they are that middle point where everything may be affirmed and denied with equal reason. They are old, they are young, they are very wise, they are altogether ignorant. They hear and feel what you say of the seraphim and of the tin peddler. There is no permanent wise person except in the figment of the Stoics. We side with the hero as we read or paint against the coward and robber. But we have been ourselves that coward and robber, and shall be again, not in the low circumstance, but in comparison with the grandeurs possible of the soul. A little consideration of what takes place around us every day would show us a higher law than that of our will regulates events. Okay. A little consideration. Okay. Hang on. Okay. Sorry. Hang on. Let's read that again. A little consideration of what takes place around us every day would show us that a higher law than that of our will regulates events, that our painful labors are very unnecessary and altogether fruitless, that only in our easy, simple, spontaneous action are we strong, and by contenting ourselves with obedience, we become divine. Belief and love. A believing we love will relieve us of a vast load of care. Oh, my siblings, God exists. There is a soul at the center of nature and over the will of every person. So that none of us can wrong the universe. It has so infused its strong enchantment into nature that we prosper when we accept its advice, and when we struggle to wound its creatures, our hands are glued to our sides, or they beat our own breasts. The whole course of things goes to teach us faith. We need only obey. There is guidance for each of us, and by lowly listening, we shall hear the right word. Why need you choose so painfully your place and occupation and associates and modes of action and entertainment? Certainly, there is a possible right for you that precludes the need of balance and willful election. For you, there is a reality, a fit place and congenial duties. Place yourself in the middle of the stream of power and wisdom which flows into your life. Place yourself in the full center of that flood. Then you are without effort impelled to truth, to right, and a perfect contentment. Then you put all gainsayers in the wrong. Then you are the world, the measure of right, of truth, of beauty. If we will not be marplots with our miserable interferences, the work, the society, letters, arts, sciences, religion of men would go on far better than now. And the heaven predicted from the beginning of the world, and still predicted from the bottom of the heart, would organize itself, as do now the rose and the air and the sun. I say, do not choose. But that is a figure of speech by which I would distinguish what is commonly called choice among humanity, and which is a partial act, the choice of the hands, of the eyes, of the appetites, and not the whole act of humanity. But that which I call right or goodness is the choice of my constitution, and that which I call heaven, and inwardly aspire after, is the state of circumstances desirable to my constitution. And the action which I, in all my years, tend to do is the work of my faculties. We must hold a person amenable to reason for the choice of their daily craft or profession. It is not an excuse any longer for their deeds that they are the custom of their trade. What business have they of an evil trade? What business have they with an evil trade? Have they not a calling in their character? All right, I'm going to grab a drink of water here and rescue my highlighter. Okay. Each person has their own vocation. The talent is the call. Okay. Whew. There is one direction in which all space is open to them. They have faculties silently inviting them thither to endless exertion. They are like a ship in a river. They run against obstructions on every side but one. On that side, all obstruction is taken away, and they sweep serenely over God's depths into an infinite sea. This talent and this call depend on their organization, or the mode in which the general soul incarnates itself in them. Or, They incline to do something which is easy to them and good when it is done, but which no other person can do. They have no rival. For the more truly they consult their own powers, the more difference will their work exhibit from the work of any other. When they are true and faithful, their ambition is exactly proportioned to their powers. The height of the pinnacle is determined by the breadth of the base. Wow. Okay. That's math. Every person has this call of the power to do somewhat unique, and no person has any other call. The pretense that they have another call, a summons by name and personal election, and outward signs that mark them extraordinary and not in the role of common people, is fanaticism, and betrays obtuseness to perceive that there is one mind in all individuals and no respect of persons therein. What? Okay. Is fanaticism, and betrays obtuseness to perceive that there is one mind in all the individuals and no respect of persons therein. Okay. By doing their work, they make the need felt which they can supply. They create the taste which they the taste by which they are enjoyed. They provoke the want to which they can minister. By doing their own work, they unfold themselves. It is the vice of our public speaking that it has not abandonment. Okay. Very confused. Somewhere, not only every orator, but every person should let out all the length of all the reins, should find or make a frank and hearty expression of what force and meaning is in them. The common experience is that the person fits themselves as well as they can to the customary details of that work or trade they fall into, and tend it as a dog turns a spit. Okay, I know where this is. There used to be a breed of, notice how I said used to be. There used to be a breed of dogs that was bred specifically to turn spits, to turn roasted meat, because it was a hot and uncomfortable job and nobody wanted to do it. So they literally bred a dog to do it. Okay. We no longer need that dog, and that dog is now extinct. Think about that for a minute. Okay. Oh, so they are fitting themselves into a job that nobody wants to do, and eventually that job isn't going to be necessary anymore, and that person will go extinct. Ugh. Interesting. This is where you get the benefit of the fact that I have a degree in anthropology and know random stuff. Like there used to be a turnspit dog that is now extinct. Interesting. Okay. All right. We're back to Emerson now. Then they are a part of the machine they move. The person is lost. See? Told ya. They are part of a machine and the person is lost. Until they can manage to communicate themselves to others in their full stature and proportion as a wise and good person, they do not yet find their vocation. They must find in that an outlet for their character so that they may justify themselves in their eyes for doing what they do. If the labor is trivial, let them by their thinking and character make it liberal. Whatever they know and think, whatever in their apprehension is worth doing, let them communicate, or people will never know and honor them aright. Foolishness, whenever you take the meanness and formality of that thing you do instead of converting it into an obedient spiracle of your character and aims. We like only such actions as have already long had the praise of people, and do not perceive anything a person can do may be divinely done. Okay. We think greatness entailed or organized in some places or duties, in certain offices or occasions, and do not see that Paganini had exact rapture from a catgut, and Eulenstein from a Jew's harp, and a nimble-fingered lad out of the shreds of paper with his scissors, and Landseer out of swine, and a hero out of the pitiful habitation and company which they were hidden. What we call obscure condition or vulgar society is that condition and society whose poetry is not yet written, but which you shall presently make as inviolable and renowned as any. Accept your genius and say what you think. Accept your genius and say what you think. In our estimates, let us take a lesson from kings. The parts of hospitality, the connection of families, the impressiveness of death, and 1,000 other things, royalty makes its own estimates of, and a royal mind will. To make habitually a new estimate, that is elevation. What a person does, that they have. What have they to do with hope or fear? In themselves is their might. Let them regard no good as solid, but that which is in their nature, and must grow out of them as long as they exist. The goods of fortune may come and go like summer leaves. Let them play with them and scatter them on every wind as the momentary signs of their infinite productiveness. They may have their own. A person's genius, the quality that differences them from every other, the susceptibility to one class of influence, the selection of what is fit for them, the rejection of what is unfit, determines for them the character of the universe. As a person thinketh, so are they. And as a person chooseth, so are they. And so is nature. Okay, so that line actually says, as a man thinketh, so is he, and as a person chooseth, so is he, and so is nature. Obviously, I gender neutraled it because I can. A person is a method, a progressive arrangement, a selecting principle, gathering their like to them wherever they go. They take only their own out of the municipality. Let me try that again. They take only their own out of the multiplicity that sweeps and circles around them. They are like one of those booms which are set out from the shore on rivers to catch driftwood, or like the lodestone amongst the splinters of steel. Those facts, words, persons which dwell in their memory without their being able to say why, remain because they have a relation to them not less real for being as yet unapprehended. They are symbols of value to them as they interpret the parts of their consciousness which they would vainly seek words for in the conventional images of books and other minds. What attracts my attention shall have it, as I will go to the person who knocks at my door, whilst 1,000 persons as worthy go by it, for whom I give no reward. Okay, and what I just heard that sentence say is where my attention goes is where my power goes. Let me read it again. What attracts my attention shall have it, as I will go to the person who knocks at my door, whilst 1,000 persons as worthy go by it, to whom I give no regard. It is enough that these particulars speak to me. A few anecdotes, a few traits of character, manners, face, a few incidents that have an emphasis in your memory out of all proportion to their apparent significance, if you can measure them by the ordinary standards. They relate to your gift. Let them have their weight, and do not reject them, and cast about for illustration and facts more usual in literature. Respect them, for they have their origin in the deepest nature. What your heart thinks is great is great. The soul's emphasis is always right. Over all things that are agreeable to their nature and genius, the person has the highest right. Everywhere they may take what belongs to their spiritual estate, nor can they take anything else though all the doors are open, nor can all the force of people hinder them from taking so much. It is vain to attempt to keep a secret from one who has the right to know it. It will tell itself. Okay. Sorry. that caught my attention. It is vain to attempt to keep a secret from the one who has the right to know it. It will tell itself. So why that caught my attention is because the original Buddha, okay, the second part of the name is popping out of my head. But the Buddha, when he was born to a king. And the king had a prophecy done, and prophecy said he will either be a great king or he will be a great teacher. And the king, the father, did not want him to be a teacher, that he wanted him to be a great king. So he tried really hard to keep the knowledge of that away from Buddha. And Buddha got there anyway. So I see what he's saying here. Whatever it is that is yours, nobody can hide that from you. Eventually you will find it. It will tell itself. Fascinating. Okay, moving on. Let's get back to Emerson. That mood into which a friend can bring us is their dominion over us. To the thoughts of that state of mind they have a right. All the secrets of that state of mind they can compel. This is a law which statesmen use in practice. All the terrors of the French Republic, which held Austria in awe, were unable to command her diplomacy. But Napoleon sent Vienna M. de Narbonne, one of the old noblesse, with the morals, manners, and name of that interest, saying that it was indispensable to send to the old aristocracy of Europe men of the same connection, which in fact constitutes a sort of Freemasonry. M. Narbonne was in less than a fortnight penetrated all the secrets of the imperial cabinet. A mutual understanding is ever the firmest chain. Nothing seems as easy to speak and to be understood. Yet a person may come to find that the strongest of defenses and of ties that they have been understood, and they who have received an opinion may come to find it the most inconvenient of bonds. If a teacher have any opinion which they wish to conceal, their pupils will become as fully indoctrinated into that as into any which they publish. If you pour water into a vessel twisted into coils and angles, it is vain to say, I will pour it only into this or that. It will find its own level in all. People feel and act the consequences of your doctrine without being able to show how they follow. Show us an arc of the curve, and a good mathematician will find out the whole figure. We are always reasoning from the seen to the unseen. Hence, the perfect intelligence that subsists between wise people of remote ages. A person cannot bury their meaning so deep in their book, but time and like-minded people will find them. Plato had a secret doctrine, had he? ? What secret can he conceal from the eyes of Bacon, of Montaigne, of Kant? Therefore, Aristotle said of his works, they are published and not published. No person can learn what they have not preparation for learning, however near to their eyes is the object. A chemist may tell their most precious secrets to a carpenter, and they shall never be the wiser. The secrets they would not utter to a chemist for an estate. God screens us evermore from premature ideas. Our eyes are holden that we cannot see things that stare us in the face until the hour arrives when the mind is ripened. Then we behold them, and the time when we see them is not like a dream. What? Okay. Sounds a bit like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. The horse is going to drink when the horse is ready. Not in nature, but in a person is all the beauty and worth they see. Oh, okay. Not in nature, but in the person is all the beauty and worth they see. The world is very empty and is indebted to this gilding, exalting soul for all its pride. Earth fills her laps with wonders. Okay, this is a quote. Earth fills her lap with splendors, not her own. The veil of Tempe, Trivoli, and Rome are earth and water, rocks and sky. There are as good earth and water in 1,000 places, yet how unaffecting. People are not the better for the sun and the moon, the horizon and the trees. It is not observed that the keepers of Roman galleries or valets of painters have any elevation of thought, or that librarians are wiser people than others. There are graces in the demeanor of a polished and noble person which are lost upon the eye of a curl. These are like the stars whose light has not yet reached us. They may see what they maketh. Our dreams are the sequel of our waking knowledge. The visions of the night always bear some proportion of the vision of the day. Hideous dreams are only exaggerations of the sins of the day. We see our own evil affections embodied in bad physiognomies. On the Alps, travelers sometimes see their own shadow magnified to a giant, so that every gesture of their hand is terrific. My children, said an old man to his boys, scared by a figure in the dark entry, my children, you will never see anything worse than yourselves. As in dreams, so in the scarcely less fluid As in dreams, so in the scarcely less fluid events of the world, every person sees themselves in colossal without knowing that it is themselves they see. There's a moment. Okay. Ooh, okay. The good which they see compared to the evil which they see is as their own good to their own evil. Every quality of their mind is magnified in some one acquaintance, and every emotion of their heart in some one. They are like a quinquex of trees which counts 5, east, west, north, or south, or an initial, medial, and terminal acronistic. And why not? They cleave to one person and avoid another according to their likeness or unlikeness to themselves, truly seeking themselves in their associates, and moreover in their trade and habits and gestures and meats and drinks, and comes at last to be faithfully represented by every view you take of their circumstance. Okay, Emerson got away from me there. What? Okay. Okay. They may read what they writeth. What can we see or acquire but what we are? You have seen a skillful person reading Virgil. Well, that author is 1,000 books to 1,000 persons. Take the book into your two hands and read your eyes out. You will never find what I find. If any ingenious reader would have a monopoly of the wisdom or delight they are as secure now. The book is Englished, as if it were imprisoned in the Purlieu's tongue. I have no idea what he's talking about. What? It is with a good book as it is with good company. Introduce a base person among gentle people. It is all to no purpose. They are not their fellow. Every society protects itself. The company is perfectly safe, and they are not one of them, though their body is in the room. Okay. And this is why Emerson makes me crazy. I'm thinking about the Virgil thing. Because I've read Virgil. I've read Homer, Odyssey, all of that. And it says, take the book into your two hands and read your eyes out. You will never find what I find. So you and I are going to see different things in the books that we read, in the paintings that we look at, in the company that we keep. But the company we keep reflects who we actually are. Because you can put us in situations that aren't anything like us, and it won't matter. It won't matter. At least it seems like that's what he's saying. But it's Emerson. I could be wrong. And he says, you will never find what I find. So I always encourage people to read Emerson themselves, and don't take my opinion on it. Or listen to Emerson in this case. Don't take my opinion on it. What avails it to fight with the eternal laws of mind, which adjust the relation of all persons to each other by the mathematical measure of their behaviors and beings? Gertrude is enamored of Guy. How high, how aristocratic, how Roman his mien and manners. To live with him were life indeed, and no purchase is too great, and heaven and earth are moved to that end. Well, Gertrude has Guy, but what now avails? How high, how aristocratic, how Roman his mien and manners, if his heart and aims are in the Senate, in the theater, and in the billiard room, and she has no aims, no conversation that can enchant her graceful lord. He shall have his own society. We can love nothing but nature. The most wonderful talents, the most meritorious exertions will really avail very little with us. But nearness or likeness of nature, how beautiful is the ease of its victory. Persons approach us, famous for their beauty, for their accomplishment, worthy of all the wonder for their charms and gifts. They dedicate their whole skill to the hour and the company, with very imperfect result. To be sure, it would be very ungrateful in us not to praise them very loudly. Then, when all is done, a person of related mind, a brother or sister by nature, comes to us so softly and easily, so nearly and intimately, as if it were the blood in our proper veins, that we feel as if someone was gone instead of another having come. We are utterly relieved and refreshed. It is a sort of joyful solitude. We foolishly think in our days of sin that we must court friends by compliance to the customs of society. Oh, wow. There we go. To its dress, to its breeding, and its estimates. But later, if we are so happy, we learn that only the soul can be my friend, which I encounter on the line of my own march. That soul to which I do not decline, and which does not decline to me, but native of the same celestial latitude, repeats in its own all my experience. The scholar and the prophet forget themselves and ape the customs and costumes of the person of the world to deserve the smile of beauty. They are a fool and follow some giddy girl, and not with religious ennobling passion a woman with all that is serene, ocular, and beautiful in her soul. Let them be great, and love shall follow them. Nothing is more deeply punished than the neglect of the affinities by which alone society should be formed, and the insane levity of the choosing associates by others' eyes. Oh Lord, he just said a whole lot. Okay, he just said a whole lot. He just said a whole lot to say. If we choose by what society tells us we want, we're gonna screw it up. If we choose by what society says we should want, we're gonna screw it up. What we should do is choose by what makes our soul happy. Not by costume, not by customs, okay? But by what our soul, by the affinity of our soul. By the affinity of our soul. Yeah. Not by custom or costume, but by the affinity of our soul. And Gertrude and Guy. Okay. So what she fell in love with was his intelligence and his manners and all of that. But if she didn't have the same intelligence and the same manners, she had nothing to offer him. He was going to go hang out with his people and leave her alone. Not by custom or costume, but by affinity. We should choose. Not by others' eyes. Okay. Okay. I don't know how much longer we've got in this chapter. Hang on. Oh, it keeps going. I'm going to be at this for a while. Okay. Oh. They may set their own rate. It is a universal maxim worthy of all acceptation that a person may have that allowance they take. Take the place and the attitude to which you see your unquestioned right, and all people acquiesce. The world must be just. It always leaves every person with profound unconcern to set their own rate. Okay. Hero or driver, it meddles not in the matter. It will certainly accept your own measure of your own doing and being. Whether you sneak about and deny your own nature, or whether you see your work produced to the concave sphere of the heavens, one with the revolution of the stars. The same reality pervades all teaching. The person may teach by doing and not otherwise. Which is a fancy way of saying do what I do, not what I say. Because children are going to see what you do and not hear what you say. Okay. If they can communicate themselves, they can teach, but not by words. They teach who gives, and who learns. They learn who receives. What? No. Okay. They teach who gives, and they learn who receives. There is no teaching until the pupil is brought into the same state or principle in which you are. A transfusion takes place. They are you, and you are they. And then is a teaching, and by no unfriendly chance or bad company can they ever quite lose the benefit. But your propositions run out of one ear as they ran in at the other. We see it advertised that Mr. Grant will deliver an oration on the 4th of July, and Mr. Hand before the Mechanics' Association, and we do not go thither, because we know that these gentlemen will not communicate their own character and being to the company. If we had reason to accept such a communication, we should go through all inconvenience and opposition. The sick would be carried in litters, but a public oration is an escapade, a non-committal, an apology, a gag, and not a communication, not a speech, not a person. A, like Nemesis, presides over all intellectual works. We have yet to learn that the thing uttered in words is not therefore affirmed. It must affirm itself, or no forms of grammar and no plausibility can give it evidence, and no array of arguments. The sentence must also contain its own apology for being spoken. Okay, what? The effect of writing, the effect of any writing on the public mind is mathematically measurable by its depth of thought. How much water does it draw? If it awakened you to think, if it lift you from your feet with the great voice of eloquence, then the effect is to be wide, slow, permanent, over the minds of people. If the pages instruct you not, they will die like flies in the hour. The way to speak and write what shall not go out of fashion is to speak and write sincerely. Okay. The argument which has not power to reach my own practice, I may well doubt will fail to reach yours. But take Sidney's maxim, look in thy heart and write. They that write to themselves writes to an external public. That statement only is fit to be made public, which you have come at in attempting to satisfy your own curiosity. Yay! In other words, write what you know. The writer who takes their subject from their ear and not from their heart should know that they have lost as much as they seem to have gained. And when the empty book has gathered all its praise, and half the people say, "What poetry! What genius!" it still needs fuel to make fire. That only profits that which is profitable. Life alone can impart life, and though we should burst, we can only be valued as we make ourselves valuable. There is no luck in literary reputation. They who make up the final verdict upon every book are not the partial and the noisy readers of the hour when it appears, but a court as of angels, a public not bribed, not to be entreated, and not to be overawed, decides upon every person's title to fame. Only those books come down which deserve to last. All the gilt edges, vellum, and morocco, all the presentation copies to all the libraries will not preserve a book in circulation beyond its intrinsic date. It must go with all Walpole's noble and royal authors to its fate. Blackmore, Kotzebue, or Pollock may endure for a night, but Moses and Homer stand forever. There are not in the world at any one time more than a dozen persons who read and understand Plato. Never enough to pay for an edition of his works, yet to every generation these come duly down. For the sake of those few persons, as if God brought them in his hand, no book, said Bentley, was ever written down by any but itself. The permanence of all books is fixed by no effort, friendly or hostile, but by their own specific gravity or intrinsic importance of their contents to the constant mind of humanity. Do not trouble yourself too much about the light in on your stature, said Michelangelo to the young sculptor. The light of the public square will test its value. In like manner, the effect of every action is measured by the depth of the sentiment from which it proceeds. The great person knew not that they were great. It took a century or two for that fact to appear. What they did because they must. They used no election. It was the most natural thing in the world and grew out of the circumstances of the moment. But now, everything they did, even to the lifting of their finger or the eating of bread, looks large, all related, and is called an institution. These are the demonstrations of, in a few particulars, of the genius of nature. They show the direction of the stream. But the stream is blood. Every drop is alive. Truth has not single victories. All things are its organs, not only dust and stones, but errors and lies. The laws of disease, physicians say, are as beautiful as the laws of health. One philosophy is affirmative and readily accepts the testimony of negative facts, as every shadow points to the sun. But a divine necessity, every fact in nature is constrained to offer its testimony. Human character does evermore publish itself. It will not be concealed. It hates darkness. It rushes into the light. The most fugitive deed and word, the mere air of doing a thing, the intimated purpose, expresses character. If you act, you show your character. If you sit still, you show it. If you sleep, you show it. You think because you have spoken nothing when others spoke and have given no opinion on the times, on the church, on slavery, on the college, on parties and persons, that your verdict is still expected with curiosity as a reserved wisdom. Far otherwise. Your silence answers very loud. You have no oracle to utter, and your fellow people have learned that you cannot help them. For oracles speak. Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? Dreadful limits are set in nature to the powers of dissimulation. Truth tyrannizes over the unwilling members of the body. Faces never lie, it is said. No person need be deceived who will study the changes of expression. When a person speaks the truth in the spirit of truth, their eye is as clear as the heavens. When they have base ends and speak falsely, the eye is muddy and sometimes asquint. I have heard an experienced counselor say that they never feared the effect upon a jury of a lawyer who does not believe in their heart that their client ought to have a verdict. If they do not believe it is their unbelief. Okay, hang on. Let me try that again. If they do not believe it, their unbelief will appear to the jury, despite all their protestations, and will become their unbelief. This is that law whereby a work of art, of whatever kind, sets us in the same state of mind wherein the artist was when they made it. That which we do not believe, we cannot adequately say, though we may repeat the words never so often. It was this conviction which Swedenborg expressed when he described a group of persons in the spiritual world endeavoring in vain to articulate a proposition which they did not believe in, but they could not, though they twisted and folded their lips, even to indignation. A person passes for what they are worth. Very idle is all curiosity concerning other people's estimation of us, and idle is all fear of remaining unknown. In other words, what you think about me is none of my business. That's what he just said. If a person knows that they can do anything, that they can do it better than anyone else, they have a pledge of the acknowledgement of that fact by all persons. The world is full of judgment days, and into every assembly that a person enters, in every action they attempt, they are gauged and stamped. In every troop of boys that whoop and run in each yard and square, a new corner is as well and accurately weighed in the balance in the course of a few days and stamped with their right number, as if they had undergone a formal trial of their strength, speed, and temper. A stranger comes from a distant school with a better dress, with trinkets in their pocket, with airs and pretensions. An old boy sniffs thereat and says to himself, "It's of no use. We shall find him out tomorrow. What hath he done?" is the divine question which searches people and transpierces every false reputation. A fop may sit in any chair of the world, nor be distinguished for their hour from Homer and Washington. But there can never be any doubt concerning the respective ability of human beings when we seek the truth. Pretensions may sit still, but cannot act. Pretensions never feigned an act of real greatness. Pretensions never wrote an Iliad, nor drove back Xerxes, nor Christianized the world, nor abolished slavery. Always, as much virtue as there is, so much appears. As much goodness as there is, so much reverence it commands. All the devils respect virtue. The high, the generous, the self-devoted sect will always instruct and command humankind. Never a sincere word was utterly lost. Never a magnanimity fell to the ground. Always the heart of humanity greets and accepts it unexpectedly. A person passes for what they are worth. What they are engraves itself on their face, on their form, on their fortunes, in letters of light, in which all people may read but themselves. There's a phrase in it, maybe Emerson, I cannot hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loud. And I think that's what he just said here. No, I cannot hear what you're saying because what you are is shouting at me. And I'm hearing thunder, so we may be about to get a storm. So I hope this chapter is going to be over soon because concealment avails them nothing, boasting nothing. There is confession in the glances of our eyes, in our smiles, in salutations, and the grasp of hands. Their sins bedaub them, mars all their good impression. People know not why they do not trust him, but they do not trust them. Their vice glasses their eyes, demeans their cheeks, pinches the nose, sets the mark of the beast on the back of the head, and writes, "O fool, fool," on the forehead of a king. If you would not be known to do anything, never do it. A person must play the fool in the drifts of a desert, but in every grain of sand shall seem to see. But every grain of sand shall seem to see. They may be a solitary eater, but they cannot keep their foolish counsel. A broken complexion, a swinish look, ungenerous acts, and the want of due knowledge, all blab. Can a cook, a chiffonage, an iachmo be mistaken for Zeno or Paul? Confucius exclaimed, "How can a person be concealed? How can a person be concealed?" On the other hand, the hero fears not that if they withhold the avowal of a just and brave act, it will go unwitnessed and unloved. One knows it themselves and is pledged by it to the sweetness of peace and to nobleness of aim, which will provide in the end a better proclamation of it than the relating of the incident. Virtue is the adherence in action to the nature of things, and the nature of things makes it prevalent. It consists in a perpetual substantiation of being for seeming, and with sublime propriety, God is described as saying, "I am." The lesson in which these observations convey is, be and not seen. Let us acquiesce. Let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits. Oh, there's that phrase. Oh. Let us unlearn our wisdom of the world. Let us lie low in the Lord's power and learn that truth alone makes rich and great. If you visit your friend, why need you apologize for not having visited them and waste their time and deface your own act? Visit them now. Let them feel that the highest love has come to see them in thee, its lowest organ. Or why need you torment yourself and friend by secret self-reproaches that you have not assisted them or complimented them with gifts or salutation heretofore? Be a gift and a benediction. Shine with real light and not with the borrowed reflection of gifts. Common people are apologies for people. They bow the head, they excuse themselves with prolix reasons. They accumulate appearances because the substance is not. We are full of these superstitions of sense, the worship of magnitude. God loveth not size. Rail and minnow are of like dimension. But we call the poet inactive because they are not a president, a merchant, or a porter. We adorn an institution and do not see that it is founded on a thought which we have. But real action is in silent moments. The epochs of our life are not in the visible facts of our choice of a calling, our marriage, our acquisition of an office, and the like, but in a silent thought by the wayside as we walk, in a thought which revises our entire manner of life and says, Thus hast thou done, but it were better thus. In all our after years, like menials, do serve and wait on this, and according to their ability to execute its will. This revisal or correction is a constant force, which, as a tendency, reaches through our lifetime. The object of the person, the aim of these moments, is to make daylight shine through them, to suffer the law to transverse their whole being without obstruction, so that on what point soever of their doing your eye falls, it shall report truly of their character, whether it be their diet, their house, their religious forms, their society, their mirth, their vote, their opposition. Now they are not homogeneous, but heterogeneous, and the ray does not transverse. There is no thorough light, but the eye of the beholder is puzzled, detecting many unlike tendencies and a life not yet at one. Why should we make it a point in our false modesty to disparage that person we are and that form of being assigned to us? A good person is contented. I love and honor, oh Lord, that looks Greek, epam monandas, but I do not wish to be epaminondas. I hold it more just to love the world of this hour than the world of his hour. Nor can you, if I am true, excite me in the least uneasiness by saying, he acted and thou sittest still. I see action to be good when the need is, and sitting still to be also good. Oh, where did he get this? Epaminondas, if he was the man I take him for, would have sat still with joy and peace if his lot had been mine. Heaven is large and affords space for all modes of love and fortitude. Why should we be busybodies and superserviceable? Action and inaction are alike to be true. One piece of the tree is cut for a weathercock, and one for the sleeper of a bridge. The virtue of the wood is apparent in both. I desire not to disgrace the soul. The fact that I am here certainly shows me that the soul had need of an organ here. Shall I not assume the post? Shall I skulk and dodge and duck with my unreasonable apologies and vain modesty and imagine my being here impertinent, less pertinent than Epaminondas or Homer being there, and what the soul did not know of its own needs? Besides, without any reasoning on the matter, I have no discontent. The good soul nourishes me always, unlocks new magazines of power and enjoyment to me every day. I will not meanly decline the immensity of good because I have heard that it has come to others in another shape. Ooh. That's a really good one, if you heard that. I will not meanly decline the immensity of good because I have heard that it has come to others in another shape. I like that one. And it is pouring out there now. Besides, why should we be cowed by the name of action? 'Tis a trick of the senses no more. We know that the ancestor of every action is a thought. The poor mind does not seem to itself to be anything unless it has an outside badge. Some Gentoo diet, or Quaker coat, or Calvinistic prayer meeting, or philanthropic society, or a great donation, or a high office, or anyhow, some wild contrasting action to testify that it is somewhat. A rich mind lies in the sun and sleeps, and is nature. To think is to act. Let us, if we must have great actions, make our own so. All action is of an infinite elasticity, and the least admits of being inflated with the celestial air until it eclipses the sun and moon. Let us seek one peace by fidelity. Let me do my duties. Why need I go gadding into the scenes in philosophy of Greek and Italian histories before I have washed my own face or justified myself to my benefactors? How dare I read Washington's campaigns when I have not answered the letters of my own correspondents? Is not that a just objection to much of our own reading? It is a pusillanimous desertion of our work to gaze after our neighbors. It is peeping. Byron says of Jack Bunting, he knew not what to say, and so he swore. I may say it of our preposterous use of books. He knew not what to do, so he read. I can think of nothing to fill my time with, and I find the life of Brant. It is a very extravagant compliment to pay to Brant, or to General Schuyler, or to General Washington. My time should be as good as their time. My world, my facts, all my net of relationships as good as theirs, or either of theirs. Rather, let me do my work so well that other idlers, if they choose, may compare my texture with the texture of these and find it identical with the best. This overestimate of the possibilities of Paul and Pericles, this underestimate of our own, comes from the neglect of the fact of an identical nature. Bonaparte knew but one merit, and rewarded in one and the same way the good soldier, the good astronomer, and the good poet, the good player. Thus he signified his sense of a great fact. The poet uses the names of Caesar, of Tamerlane, of Bonduca, of Belisarius. The painter uses the conventional story of the Virgin Mary, of Paul, of Peter. They do not, therefore, defer to the nature of these accidental people, of these stock heroes. If the poet writes a true drama, then they are Caesar, and not the player of Caesar. Then the self-same strain of thought, emotion as pure, wit as subtle, motion as swift, mounting, extravagant, and a heart as great, self-sufficing, dauntless, which on the waves of its love and hope can uplift all that is reckoned solid and precious in the world, palaces, gardens, monies, knaves, kingdoms, marking its own incomparable worth by the slight of its casts on these gowns of men. These are all theirs, and by the power of these they rouse the nation. But the great names cannot stead them, if they have not life itself, themselves. Let a person believe in God and not in the names and places and persons. Let the great soul incarnated in some woman's form, poor and sad and single, in some Dolly or Joan, go out to service and sweep chambers and scrub floors, and its effulgent daybeams cannot be muffled or hid, but to sweep and scour will instantly appear supreme and beautiful actions. The top and radiance of human life, and all people will get mops and brooms, until, lo, suddenly the great soul has enshrined itself in some other form and done some other deed, and that is now the flower and head of all living nature. We are the photometers. We are the irritable gold leaf and tinfoil that measures the accumulations of the subtle element. We know the authentic effects of the true fire through every one of its million guises. And that's it. That is spiritual laws. Although it seemed like right there at the end he was saying, look, it doesn't matter what you do. If you do it with all of your heart and all of your soul, then you are literally the great soul. And it doesn't matter how we gild it or how we measure it. It's still the great soul doing its thing. And that you can take action and you can sit still in as your nature dictates. Okay. Well, that was Spiritual Laws by Emerson. The next one depending on how the week goes, next Saturday I will do Circles by Emerson. Oh my goodness. That was a lot. And I will grant you that Emerson, every now and again, like the sunlight would break through and I'm like, okay, I know what he's talking about. And then there were times that I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But if you just heard that roll of thunder, I'm going to get offline just to make sure that I don't get kicked offline. So that was Spiritual Laws by Ralph Waldo Emerson from Emerson's Essays for a class that Jessie is going to teach sometime this summer.